The elevator doors slide open. A young woman steps inside, presses several buttons, and then suddenly freezes. She peeks her head out into the hallway as if someone is standing there. Her movements become frantic. She steps out, back in, out again. She presses almost every button on the panel, but the elevator doesn't close. She hides in the corner for a moment, as if she is trying not to be seen. Then she steps into the hallway and begins gesturing into the darkness, moving her hands in strange, almost panicked motions. And then she disappears. This short, unsettling piece of security footage would soon become one of the most disturbing mysteries ever captured on camera. Because the woman in that elevator would be found weeks later in a place no one expected. Inside a rooftop water tank. Her name was Elisa Lam. And what happened to her inside the infamous Cecil Hotel would trigger one of the internet's most debated true crime cases. To understand why this story still haunts millions of people today, we have to start long before that elevator video was released. We have to go back to the beginning. Elisa Lam was born in Vancouver. Friends described her as intelligent, curious, and deeply reflective. She was a university student who loved writing, photography, and documenting her thoughts online. Like many young people searching for meaning in their lives, Elisa kept a blog where she shared personal reflections, struggles, and dreams. Her posts revealed someone thoughtful but also vulnerable. Elisa had been open about her struggles with mental health, particularly bipolar disorder and depression. But despite these challenges, she remained determined to explore the world around her. In early 2013, she decided to take a solo trip across the United States. It was meant to be an adventure. A chance to see new places, meet new people, and experience life beyond the familiar streets of Vancouver. She traveled down the West Coast, visiting cities and documenting her journey with photos and blog entries. Friends and family back home followed her posts with excitement. For Elisa, this trip represented freedom. But it would eventually lead her to a place with a very dark reputation. In late January 2013, Elisa arrived in Los Angeles. She checked into a place known for its history of mystery and tragedy, the Cecil Hotel. Built in the 1920s, the hotel had once been a glamorous destination for travelers and businessmen. But over the decades, the surrounding neighborhood changed, crime increased. The hotel slowly developed a reputation as a place connected to tragedy. There had been numerous suicides, several unexplained deaths, and even serial killers had once stayed within its walls. One of them was Richard Ramirez, who reportedly lived at the hotel during his killing spree in the 1980s. Despite this history, the Cecil still operated as a budget hotel that attracted tourists, travelers, and long-term residents. Elisa initially shared a room with other guests, but within a few days, hotel staff moved her to a private room. Some reports later suggested that her roommates had complained about unusual behavior. Still, nothing seemed alarming enough to trigger serious concern. During her stay, Elisa continued posting photos and writing about her trip. She visited bookstores, explored the city, and spoke with her parents regularly. But then something changed. On January 31, 2013, Elisa Lam vanished. Her parents quickly became worried when they stopped hearing from her. For Elisa, daily contact with her family was routine. When that contact suddenly stopped, alarms were raised immediately. The Los Angeles Police Department launched a search. Officers began combing through the hotel. They checked rooms, hallways, staircases, and the rooftop. Police dogs were even brought in to search for signs of her. But nothing was found. Days passed, then weeks. The case began receiving media attention as investigators struggled to understand what had happened. Had Elisa been kidnapped? Had she run away? Or had something darker occurred inside the hotel? 2 weeks after her disappearance, investigators released a piece of evidence that would captivate the entire world. A security camera recording from one of the hotel elevators. When people first watched the footage, they were immediately unsettled. Elisa enters the elevator and presses multiple buttons, but the elevator refuses to close. She steps out into the hallway, looks around nervously, and then jumps back inside. She hides in the corner. Then she steps out again and begins making strange gestures with her hands, almost as if she is speaking to someone who cannot be seen. After several seconds, she walks away from the elevator, and the doors finally close. For many viewers, The video raised more questions than answers. Who was Elisa reacting to in the hallway? Why didn't the elevator close while she was inside? And where did she go after leaving the frame? The footage spread across the internet like wildfire. Millions of people watched it. Online forums filled with theories. Some believed she was being chased, others thought she was hiding from someone. More extreme theories suggested supernatural forces connected to the hotel's dark past. But investigators continued searching for real answers. Then, nearly 3 weeks after Elisa disappeared, something strange began happening inside the hotel. Guests started complaining about the water. Some said the water pressure was weak. Others said it tasted strange. One guest later described the water as having a dark color and unusual smell. At first, hotel staff believed it was a plumbing issue, but when the complaints continued, maintenance workers were sent to check the building's water system. That decision would lead to a horrifying discovery. High above the hotel, on the rooftop, sat several large water tanks that supplied water to the building. A maintenance worker climbed up to inspect them. When he opened one of the tank lids and looked inside, he saw something floating in the dark water. It was a human body. The body was later confirmed to be Elisa Lam. The mystery had taken a disturbing turn. But the discovery raised even more terrifying questions. Because reaching those water tanks was not easy. Accessing the roof required passing through locked doors or using a fire escape ladder. The tanks themselves were several feet tall. Climbing into one would require effort. And the heavy lid was not easy to open, so how did Elisa get inside? And perhaps even more disturbing, was she alone? The investigation was about to enter its most controversial phase, and the answers investigators uncovered would divide public opinion for years. When the body of Elisa Lam was pulled from the rooftop water tank at the Cecil Hotel, investigators immediately faced a puzzle. There were no obvious signs of a struggle. No clear evidence of another person being involved. Yet the circumstances surrounding her death seemed almost impossible to explain. Detectives from the Los Angeles Police Department began reconstructing the final days of Elisa's life. They reviewed surveillance footage, they interviewed hotel staff, they examined every possible route that could lead to the rooftop. One key detail quickly became the focus of intense discussion. Access to the roof was supposed to be restricted. Certain doors were locked and alarmed. If someone opened them, hotel staff should have been alerted. Yet investigators found no record of any alarm being triggered. This suggested something troubling. Either Elisa had found another way onto the roof, or someone had helped her get there. Meanwhile, the disturbing elevator footage continued spreading across the internet. Millions of viewers studied every second. People slowed the footage down frame by frame. They debated her gestures, her body language, and the way she seemed to react to something unseen. Some believed she was experiencing paranoia. Others believed someone was just outside the camera's view. But there was also another explanation investigators had to consider. Elisa Lam had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. According to medical experts, individuals experiencing certain episodes of bipolar disorder can suffer from confusion, paranoia, or hallucinations. Police later revealed that Elisa may not have been taking her prescribed medication consistently during her trip. This raised the possibility that she could have been experiencing a severe mental health episode. If that were the case, the strange behavior in the elevator might not have been a response to another person. It could have been the result of psychological distress. But even that explanation left several unanswered questions. How did she reach the rooftop? How did she climb into the water tank? And why was the tank lid closed? According to the autopsy report released by the Los Angeles County coroner, Elisa Lam's death was officially ruled an accidental drowning. Toxicology tests did not reveal significant levels of drugs or alcohol in her system. The report also found no signs of physical trauma that would indicate an assault. Investigators concluded that Elisa had somehow reached the roof on her own and entered the water tank. But the public was not satisfied with that explanation. Almost immediately, alternative theories began circulating online. Some people believed that someone inside the hotel had harmed her and staged the scene to look like an accident. Others believed the Cecil Hotel itself was somehow cursed. The building's history certainly fueled those beliefs. Over the decades, multiple deaths had occurred there. Several individuals had jumped from the upper floors. One infamous case involved a woman who leapt from a window and landed on a pedestrian below, killing them both. Then there were the serial killers who had once stayed there. During the 1980s, Richard Ramirez reportedly used the hotel as a residence while committing a series of brutal murders across Los Angeles. Another killer, Jack Unterweger, also stayed at the hotel years later. Stories like these created an eerie reputation that seemed to surround the building. But investigators insisted there was no evidence linking Elisa Lam's death to foul play. Still, certain details continued to spark debate. One of the biggest questions involved the water tank lid. Early reports suggested the lid had been closed when Elisa's body was discovered. However, the maintenance worker who found her later stated that the lid had actually been open. That contradiction fueled even more speculation. If the lid was closed, it would be extremely difficult for someone inside the tank to shut it from within. But if it was open, then the scenario described by investigators became more plausible. Another mystery involved the elevator footage itself. Internet users noticed that the timestamp appeared slightly altered. Some believed the video had been edited or slowed down. Police later confirmed that portions of the footage had been adjusted before release, primarily to remove irrelevant segments and protect investigative details. However, the unusual pacing of the video continued to raise suspicion among viewers. Over time, the case evolved into something larger than a police investigation. It became an internet phenomenon. Documentaries, podcasts, and investigative videos attempted to uncover new clues. Amateur detectives analyzed every available detail. But despite all the theories, no definitive evidence ever surfaced to contradict the official conclusion. Years later, the Cecil Hotel attempted to distance itself from its dark reputation. Parts of the building were renovated and rebranded under a new name. But the story of Elisa Lam remains permanently tied to its history. Even today, millions of people continue watching the elevator footage, trying to understand what happened during those final moments. Some believe the official explanation. Others remain convinced that something more sinister occurred. And perhaps that is why the mystery still captivates the world. Because sometimes the most unsettling stories are not the ones with clear answers. They are the ones that leave us wondering what really happened in the shadows. What truly occurred on the rooftop of that hotel in Los Angeles, and whether the full truth about Elisa Lam will ever be known.